There's been a lot of buzz around 3M's newest sander, but it certainly isn't a Festool Rotex killer. What if I told you that we've had a viable competitor to the Rotex for a while now, and while its name does start with M, it isn't Mirka. It's Makita. There are a lot of similar features on both of these tools. Both tools feature soft start technology, which increases your tool life. They both have toolless pad changing, which makes it quick and easy to do. They have adjustable speed dials, and they have selector switches to go between sanding modes. Both sanders also have similar sanding performance in terms of material removal speed. If you don't want to believe me or you want to see more, I'll link to another video which actually tests this directly. Both sanders have very similar ergonomics, and I found that they have a lot of different locations which are comfortable to hold. I don't recommend using only one hand when you're using the aggressive sanding modes. There are several tests which I performed in the shop to give you all a clear understanding of how these sanders compare in real-world use. Both sanders are at their maximum speed and tested exclusively using the aggressive and/or Rotex modes. I ran some of these tests without dust collection to avoid any noise pollution. I was expecting to see a minor difference in these sanders, but after testing them, they are almost identical, hovering somewhere between 68 to 76 decibels when in the aggressive mode. To my ears, they had a similar tone and pitch, although the Festool had a bit more gear noise than the Makita. I ran both sanders continuously for 20 minutes on an end-grain maple cutting board using 120 grit sandpaper, and then I used an infrared thermometer to take their temperature. Neither sander ever got uncomfortable to hold. Ultimately, the Makita was a few degrees higher than the Festool, but I really couldn't feel a difference. Both of these tools have electronic brakes, and they came to a stop from full speed in about 1.5 seconds. Electronic brakes are a great feature and make a huge difference compared to sanders that don't have them. Both sanders are rated at the same vibration emission value. This effectively means they vibrate the same amount. Neither sander left my hands or arms in distress after testing. These are both powerful sanders, and if you are not careful with correct technique and pressure, they can absolutely get away from you. It's also worth noting that both sanders are significantly smoother in their fine finish modes. After the 20-minute sanding run, neither the Festool or Makita left any visible dust on the board. However, the Festool did leave some dust in the juice grooves on the side of the board, which the Makita did not. Otherwise, they are comparable in dust collection performance. Before I get to my thoughts, I made a spreadsheet comparing the hard specs of both sanders, linked in the description if you want to check that out after the video. I want to clarify that I am not including the Mirka or the new 3M sander in this comparison because those tools do not have an aggressive sanding or Rotex mode, so it didn't really feel fair to include them in the comparison. I did feel overall that the Festool packaging is a bit nicer. Both tools come in sustainer style cases with similar accessories. I was really fond of the twist lock power cord on the Festool, which is removable unlike the Makita, which is hardwired. The dust port also has a locking feature if you use the Festool hoses. Festool has the superior 3-year all-inclusive warranty compared to 1 year with Makita. Festool also has a proven track record of making excellent sanders. Time will tell with the Makita. The warranty is obviously important, but I think that we'd all do well to remember that it's common practice in a lot of industries to build the cost of a warranty into the pricing structure. This might explain why the Rotex is significantly more money. If anyone has warrantied either of these brands before, please leave a comment below with your experience. Overall, I felt the Festool was more inclined to rip itself from my hands, and it often felt like I was fighting it just to keep the sander on course in Rotex mode. This is also sometimes the case with the Makita, but I generally felt that the Festool requires more resistance and pressure to sand smoothly. This also may be affected by the types of sanding discs that you use. I did all of my tests with the 3M Cubitron sanding paper, which does not have the rigidity of a traditional sanding disc to help with dust extraction. The dust extraction works great on both tools, but the Makita was superior in my sanding tests. Lastly, the Festool is simply significantly more expensive than the Makita, and its price point is likely going to price a lot of buyers out. The Makita does have a more powerful motor, about 10% more than the Festool, although the effects of this were negligible in my own testing. The Makita offers a significantly lower low-end speed, going down to about half the speed of the Festool's lowest setting. Sanders like these are generally not for delicate finish work or polishing applications, so I could see this being useful in that regard. The Makita sander is heavier, but not by much, about 11% more than the Festool. In American, the Makita is about 12 quarter-pounders from McDonald's, and the Festool is about 10.5. Makita has a 10% larger orbit diameter. The orbit diameter is the size of the swirl left by the sander, and the larger it is, the easier it is to see. This could affect your finish sanding performance, and it's why finish sanders have a significantly smaller orbit diameter. But ultimately, neither of these are finish sanders. Several reviewers pointed out that when resting, the Makita sander leans back and doesn't sit flat. I have seen this in my own use, but it's only fair to point out that my Rotex did the exact same thing. As soon as you apply pressure to the front of both sanders, they both flatten out. I want to touch on dust collection a bit more. Out of the box, both tools come ready to hook up to a dust extractor. A lot of the appeal of owning a Rotex is the Festool ecosystem, including its line of dust extractors, which are generally considered excellent. At the time of this review, the cheapest Festool extractor, not including the Sustainer extractor, is the new CT15 model for $419. So what about those of us who can't afford to drop over $1,000 on a sander and extractor? Either sander can be hooked up to a standard shop vac like this rigid vacuum. And when outfitted with the HEPA filter and the HEPA filter bags, you will achieve true HEPA performance, and you'll even meet the requirements of the OSHA Table 1 standard for those of you who are in construction. Overall, the Makita rigid combo is about half the price of the Festool sanding system, which seems like a no-brainer. Makita does offer a full lineup of commercial-grade dust extractors, which are extremely comparable to Festool's offerings, including hoses, adapters, and the like if you want to go that route. My hope is that you'll walk away from this video with a complete understanding of which tool is right for you. Both of these are great tools, and you're not going wrong either way. But if you ask me, I'll be saving my money and sticking with Makita.